So does anybody know what the Immaculate Conception is? Flor, you can't say.
Huh?
The Immaculate Conception. And yesterday was the feast of the Immaculate Conception. And we celebrate the Immaculate Conception because it's a very important feast in the liturgical year. And in fact, just so that you know, the third commandment calls on us to go to Mass every Sunday and day of obligation. And the feast of the Immaculate Conception is one of those days of obligation, which means that we have to recognize that day as a day of church attendance, okay, at Mass. And if you didn't know it, don't be concerned, not yet anyways, but from here on out, I already told you, so now you know. And as my brother used to say, I don't want to take your classes because then I'm gonna know what I'm gonna be guilty of, and I don't want to know that anymore. So, but it's important that we know. And the reason why the Immaculate Conception is such an important feast within the liturgical year is because it is at that moment, at the moment that the Virgin Mary, it's not when, see, I used to think that the Immaculate Conception was when Jesus came into the world. And that's not the case. The Immaculate Conception is the moment that Mary was created to be, or to have the choice to allow the Lord to bring Jesus through her. So she was born with the incredible grace of not being tarnished by sin from the moment of conception. Okay, because we are descendants of Adam and Eve, we are born with the stain of original sin. Mary, through God's grace, was spared that stain from the very moment of her birth, all right, or her conception. And it's important that we know that we call Mary the Virgin Mary, right? Mary is not her last name. Mary is who she personifies. She's a virgin intimately. She's a virgin to sin. And she's a virgin before birth, during birth, and after birth. Okay? That is what the church teaches us. And it's important. And that's the reason why the Immaculate Conception is such an important event in the life of the church, because it even becomes a dogma. And a dogma is a pillar, one of the pillars that the church recognizes, that if you're going to consider yourself Catholic, if you are going to be in the faith, you not only have to know, you have to accept the fact, the teachings of the church, that Mary was conceived free of sin. Okay, so it's an important event. And so it's on December what? December 8th. I just want to make sure you guys are following along, right? December 8th. And so the moment of conception, December 8th. And when do we celebrate Mary's birth? Dun, 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 dun. This is like, are you going to phone a friend? No, you're not going to phone a friend. Okay, I'll tell you. It's September 8th, okay? September 8th. And if you do the math, there are exactly 9 months between December 8th and September 8th, okay? Where for us, the Cuban community, we celebrate la caridad, right? Our charity. Well, it is also the day of the feast of Mary's birth. Okay, so September 8th is that day. It is also the day, if you guys love history, you came to the right guy. If you don't like history, boy, you're going to need to transfer out of this class. If on September 8th, 1565, the first mass was celebrated in St. Augustine, Florida. So, and it was the very first Catholic mass celebrated in the United States. So ain't that awesome? On the feast of Our Lady's birth. Okay. Now, where and how through history the church and the church had always accepted the fact that Mary must have been preserved from sin from the moment of conception, but it didn't become a dogma, and it didn't become a dogma until 1854, when the Pope declared on her feast day on December 8th that from here on out it was a dogma of the church of the Immaculate Conception that Mary had been preserved from sin. Now, years go by, and I think it was, and when I say I think, I'm pretty sure, 1858. Okay, four years, a little more than 4 years later, on March 25th. This is an important date, March 25th, 1858. Mary is appearing at Lourdes in France, and she had been requesting of Saint Bernadette that she go see the priest, the pastor at the local parish, and to tell him that she wanted him to build her a church there and to say mass there every day and pray the rosary there every day. And so Bernadette was probably about 14 years old back then, not the brightest student in class. In fact, she didn't know how to read or write. And to her, a Blessed Mother appeared. And if you ever go to Lourdes, it's an incredible pilgrimage to take. In fact, I was born on the feast day of the apparition of Mary in Lourdes, which is February 11th. And I'm not going to tell you the day that I was born, but leave that for another day. But the Mary appeared to Bernadette, and when Bernadette went and told the priest what Mary had told her, she didn't know who she was. She knew she was seeing a vision, and she was praying a rosary with this vision, but she didn't know her name. She didn't know nothing. In fact, the only thing that she knew was that she called her the beautiful lady, the beautiful lady. And so she went to see the priest, and she told the priest, the beautiful lady wants you to build her a church there, say mass there every day, and say the rosary there as well. And so the priest says, listen, I don't usually build churches for little ladies who don't tell me their name. So I want you to go back over there and ask her what her name is, and then we'll see about building her a church. So she says that's fine. So next time that she has the vision of the beautiful lady in the cove over there in Lourdes, she takes a pad and a pencil, and after they finish praying the rosary, she asked the lady that could she write down her name on this piece of paper, because the priest wants to know who she is. And she smiles at her because she realizes that she doesn't know how to read or write. So she doesn't know how. She wants to make sure that, give me your name so I can tell him what your name is, right? And she tells her, tell him that I am the Immaculate Conception. And Bernadette's 14 years old, not highly educated. She starts, what? She says, I'm the Immaculate Conception. So she gets up and she runs to the church and keeps repeating, I'm the Immaculate Conception, I'm the Immaculate Conception, I'm the Immaculate Conception. She gets to the door, knocks on the door, the priest opens the door, and she says she's the Immaculate Conception. And the priest's eyes, they bulge out of his head, because what did you say? And he says, she says that she's the Immaculate Conception. Now, the priest knew what 4 years ago had been proclaimed in Rome as a dogma of the church. But this little girl, peasant, who lived in town, had no idea of what she was saying. She was repeating what he was. So he knew right away that this has to be a legitimate vision that she is seeing. So when Mary identifies herself as the Immaculate Conception, she gives approval to the dogma that the church had recognized in 1854, that this was going to be a dogma for the church, for all to believe that Mary was free of sin. And so she proves it when she reveals her name, because till that moment, no one had ever called Mary Immaculate Conception. It wasn't even in the radar of people who were trying to understand or come to terms with who Mary was and who she wasn't. Okay, so the fact that she stated it legitimized the reality of what the Pope had stated. Now, the date that I told you was important was that she reveals that on March 25th. Why is that day important? Because on that day, the church celebrates the Annunciation.
Right? Conception.
So,
Annunciation.
right. When the angel Gabriel appears to Mary, and now he says to her, and we're going to get to that in a second, but he calls her full of grace, which means that she is free of all sin. For us to be able to be full of grace, we have to be in a state free of total sin. And so if you take March 25th and then you go to December 25th, you got exactly 9 months. From 25th of March to the 25th of December, we have the 9 months. But it's, to me, it's an interesting, interesting twist in that Mary reveals to confuse us, right? To confuse us even more so, that on the 25th of March, she reveals her name as being the Immaculate Conception. But it's also the day that the church was celebrating the feast of the Annunciation of Jesus coming into the world and through the Holy Spirit into Mary's womb. Okay, so long story short, when anybody ever asks you what's the Immaculate Conception, you run. You run. No, hopefully you don't run. Hopefully you stay there and you repeat exactly what I just finished saying, because that's what the Immaculate Conception is, and it's not a date, it's not a term that the church has made up. It is a name that our Blessed Mother brought down from heaven when she appeared in France as well. Okay, so it brings to reality that name. Okay, now
she was with Joseph already, right?
I'm sorry.
Was she with Joseph already?
Yes, on the 25th, of March. Okay.
Boom.
Not on December 8th. On December 8th, who knows where Joseph was? At this time it was Joaquin and Anne, and boy, did they had a hard time conceiving. In fact, that's another story, because Mary, oh man, you guys got me. I love this. I'm going all over the place, but it's important. There's a painting, and put this one down because after we hang up, you guys can look it up on Google. There's a painting, a fresco painting called at the city gate. At the city gate, all right? And so legend has it, or tradition has it, that Joachim, who is Jesus' biological grandfather, and Anne, Mary's mother, and Jesus' grandmother, right? If we follow the earthly connection, they couldn't conceive. And in the days of Jesus, if you could not conceive, that meant that there was something in you that was not in line with God, because God would only deprive you of children if you weren't worthy of having children, right? So that's the way it was seen. So people who could not conceive had a real hard time, because everybody would look down on them and basically pass judgment on them. And Joachim was a good man, and he was able to get past a lot of that bias with them, and spend time in the temple, except one day when they gave him a really hard time, and he got upset and basically abandoned Anne, and abandoned everything and went out into the woods. And an angel, Mary, Anne, began to pray in hope that they will be able to conceive, and in hope of a change of heart of Joachim, that he would come back home. And the angel appeared to Anne in a vision and told her that she would conceive, and that to go to the city gate and wait for his return. And the angel appeared in another vision to Joachim and told him that Anne was to conceive and to go to the city, that she would wait for him at the gate. And so they both come together at the city gate, and in the painting, the artist paints them giving each other a kiss. But what's really interesting in that painting is that if you look at the characters behind the painting, everybody seems to be with joy, that this couple has reconciled the differences, and they're coming together. And then there's one character in the back dressed all in black and seems very angry, right? And so the interpretation is that was Satan, who realizes that now Jesus is coming, the plan has started, and Jesus is going to be coming into the world, and his end is near. And so he ain't happy. He's the only character. Everybody's wearing light clothing in the painting, and he's the only one wearing black, so you'll be able to see it. And but that's the story behind. And so Anne had made a promise that she would take Mary as soon as she was able to be on her own, that she would take her to the temple, and she will be given to the temple for the use of God, right? And that's exactly what happened. And so there she was. And so here we have another story that comes from that, when Mary comes of age in the temple. By this time, it is believed that Joachim and Anne were no longer alive, and so they Mary had to be given away to a groom, and so a bunch of men showed up, and they all pick me, right? And so the temple priest has to make a decision on who to give Mary away to, since obviously the father is no longer there, and he has a vision that night on how to do this, and the vision told him, give each one a branch. The man that I choose to be Mary's husband, his branch will flower. And so the priest gets up in the morning, he gives every one of the candidates a branch, and he says, come see me tomorrow. And when they come see him the following day, Joseph's branch had a flower on it. And so he believed that this was God's choice. And as it turned out, it had to be him, because Joseph had to come from the line of David, and Joseph was in line with King David. So that made it a point later, the prophecy that the Messiah, the one that was expected to come, will come from the line of David. And because Joseph was of the line of David, Jesus becomes from the line of David, and the prophecy it comes true. Okay, so woo. Okay,
That's a long one.
that's a long one. Go ahead, Flor.
Okay, in relation to the Immaculate Conception, are you saying that when you say Mary was a virgin before, during, and after birth?
Right.
Meaning after birth of whom? Of Jesus, or after birth of Mary?
No, after birth of Jesus. See,
Okay.
we're talking about two virginities, okay? She's a virgin in what we look at today as her womanhood, right? She's a virgin, but she's also a virgin to sin as well. God gives her the, to protect her from sin. And now she also, God gives her the grace to be able to turn from sin. And she has free will. Okay. And we know that because when the angel appears to her, she'll ask permission. She could say no, but she says, I am the handmaid of the Lord. Be done unto me.
Correct.
As you will, right? And so even though she has this grace to protect her, she at the same time has free will. But when you get to the point where you receive that much grace, it allows you, and that's why it's important for us to take advantage of the sacrament of reconciliation, because the more we use it, the more grace that we receive from it, and the more that we're able to turn from sin and begin to overcome that desire of sin. Okay.
Thank you. That's what I understood as well. But in the discussion, I always, it's always a I hope he forgives me, like a kind of a kidding stuff, because I never married. And then sometimes if I'm babysitting somebody, my friend's kid, they, who don't know me or hasn't seen me for a long time, they will say, oh, is that your child? I said, no, otherwise it will be an immaculate conception.
And we've only had one of those, right?
I know, I was kind of kidding around along that line. But thank you for the clarification. I just want to make sure.
And it's a great question, because I used to, and I know that I think I've shared this at the beginning of here, but I used to ask Bishop Stevis when I was with him as master of ceremonies. I asked him that question because I always wonder, did Joseph really believe, what his vision told him, that what Mary told him, and we know that he was a good man. He was willing to be put to shame in the community instead of denouncing her as being pregnant and him saying the baby's not mine, right? And yet I asked him, did he really believe? And Bishop Steves said, Tony, if he didn't believe then at birth, he had to believe. He had to believe because it was not a natural birth. It must have been a supernatural birth. And for you to be present and then for these shepherds to show up at your door and says, oh, we were told that this baby was going to be here. And you go, what? How did you guys find out? Did somebody send out a text? Come on. And there was no way for them to have known this. And of all people to be invited to come see Jesus, it was the shepherds, the one group of people that weren't even allowed to go to temple because they were considered impure because they were among animals their whole day. And so you're impure, you're not allowed to come to temple, even though everything that they did had to do with the needs of the temple, right? They needed the sheep, they needed the clothing, they needed the food, they needed the sacrifice. Everything came from the shepherds. And yet those are the ones that the world wanted to exclude. And yet those are the ones that the angel comes and says, come, your Messiah is here. And he wants you to be the one invited. They were the ones invited. The three kings, they showed up, but invited were the shepherds. Okay, so it's an important detail in the Christmas story, which will be further along. All right. Next, this is important for as far as for dates for all of you guys to please note, since you're probably going to be getting together on Christmas and you're going to be talking about dates, just so that you know. Those of you who will be baptized, okay? If you're going to be baptized, you have not been baptized, okay? The baptism, oh, let's start with the other one because I have that on the other page. All right, those of you who are already baptized, okay, and are going to be confirmed, the confirmation will be on May 4th at 7 p.m. Okay, and there will be a rehearsal on May 3rd at 7 p.m. as well. Okay, so only those who are going to be confirmed are on May 4th. Those who will be baptized and God. Hang on one second, guys. Okay. All right. Those of you who are going to be baptized are going to be baptized on April 16th. Okay. That's the Easter Vigil. That's the Saturday night as we go from Saturday into Sunday. Now, remember that the church follows the Jewish calendar. As the sun sets, the new day begins. Okay, so we call the mass on the evening before daylight. We call that the Vigil Mass, which is the night before the day. Okay, so on Saturday we always have the Vigil Sunday Mass. Okay, so on this particular Easter Saturday, we call it the Easter Vigil Mass, April 16th. Those of you who have not been baptized on that day, you will be baptized. And if you're in a state of being able to receive First Communion, you'll receive First Communion. You'll also be confirmed on that day. All right. Now, let me explain to you why only on that day. If you have already been baptized, okay, Father Jose Luis cannot confirm you. Okay, it has to be the bishop who confirms you, who confirms your faith into the church. If Father Jose Luis, or when I say Father Jose Luis, it could be any pastor, any particular church, he is giving the authority or the faculty on that particular day, on the vigil, on the Easter vigil, for him to baptize and confirm on that day, and on that day alone. Okay. Now, when we went through the pandemic back in 2019, 2020, Father Jose Luis had to request different dispensation dates to be able for us to because we couldn't do it in the large numbers, we had to do smaller numbers. And so that was granted by the bishop. Once again, nothing is ever black and white. There's always a gray area where the church works. And so the adults coming into the faith, it is on the Easter vigil that they're baptized and are welcomed into the church. Okay. And so any of you who are being baptized, you will be baptized, God willing, on April 16th. Okay. Those of you who are already baptized and are taking the class to be confirmed will be on May 4th with the bishop, Bishop Enrique, the auxiliary bishop, will be coming to Corpus Christi. Okay. Now, during this time, pray. You will have to have a sponsor. Okay. If you were children, we would say a godparent. Okay. Only one for the adults. Pray on it. Who can you trust to tell you when you're falling off course, that will guide you back in? Who can help you keep the faith? Who can keep you on this journey? Pray on it and start thinking about that selection, because we will need for you to have a sponsor. It's a guide, someone to walk the journey with us. Okay. I know Flor and I, for a long time, we thought about, I don't know about Flor, may still be thinking about it. I think I'm past my age, but to do a Camino in Spain, and you always do it in a group so that you can all encourage each other and keep each other moving. And so the same thing with the faith, so we take this leap of faith and we bring somebody with us that we can trust to help us stay on track. And if we get distracted, that'll help us bring us back. So have somebody that you have, that you consider somebody that can set an example. And what's real here is that a lot of times, and it's the same thing that I tell parents when they come to bring their children to baptism. I says, we never know. God works in mysterious ways, right? We never know if it's the baby who is going to lead us to Christ, or if it's our responsibility to bring the baby to Christ. And I think it's a combination of the two in every story. And so that's the point that I want you to pray on it, because you may be asking someone to help you on this journey, and you may be the bridge that the person that you're asking to come on back, and may use your calling to come on back again and renew their devotion and their faith again. So pray on it, and it has to be someone who's been confirmed. Okay, that's the one reality that cannot be removed from this equation. We need to have someone who's walked the walk. And basically, you don't go take swimming classes with somebody who doesn't know how to swim, right? And so it's no different here. We try to find someone who's walked this journey so that that individual can help us walk as well. Okay, so I think those are the dates that I wanted you to remember. Now, next Thursday will be the last class. We will not have class during the week of Christmas. Okay, we will come back again on the last week of December, which I believe is the 30th. Will be the last class of December of 2021, and then we'll begin again 22. Continue the classes. Okay, so are we good with that, guys? Everybody understand? Very good. So we get together next week, and then we'll skip a week, and we'll get back together again on the 30th, just before New Year's, and we'll continue our journey. Okay. So I'm gonna
no classes for 2 weeks.
no classes for 1 week.
Oh,
Now
For
next
two-
week we
the-
have when we
next
don't have
week we have class.
right the week of
16,
we don't have class.
the 23rd.
Right, we're not gonna have
Before-
class.
Okay.
It wouldn't be fair for me to do the same thing that I did to you guys on Thanksgiving, and I am so sorry. After I realized what I was doing, I said, "Oh man, the women are gonna kill me." So I apologize, and I'm not gonna make the same mistake twice. So hey, Christmas, you guys do your gift wrapping, do whatever you need to do. Look, last minute running around. So I'll leave that alone.
So
But when
no
I-
makeup class.
no, and no, I'm gonna leave Tuesday off as well on that same week. So Tuesday's not gonna have it, and Thursday's not
Oh,
gonna
for
have
the
it.
Spanish. Okay.
But please don't put aside the rosary. Do pray. Don't take a day off from prayer, man. And it's important. You will take a day off from class to spend family time, but not from prayer. Okay, so you guys, you'll have the book, Giselle. You'll have the book, I promise. So if you and your significant other decide not to pray, that's on you guys. That's not on me. Okay, so you guys will all be set. Okay, all right. May the Lord be with you. May
And
Almighty
with
God
your spirit.
of the Son and of the Holy Spirit bless you and keep you always. Amen. Pray for
Thank
this.
you.
Pray for this man today who lost his life, guys, and for all those who are working that investigation now, the poor souls. It should have been at the end of the workday, and they'll be doing this for a few hours tonight into the night. Okay. God bless you guys. Take care.
Thank you, Deacon Tony.
God bless you guys. Take care.